All right, hello there, thrill seekers. It's me and Ziggy, and that was a little piece of the song Walk, Don't Run by The Ventures, because I've been reading this book about the Ventures. What I wanted to talk to you about today is psychic powers. Now, this is something Zen teachers don't often talk about, and I looked in my previous videos, and it looks like I haven't talked about it since 2017, so maybe it's about time. I don't know, maybe I've talked about it since then, but that was the most recent one I could find. So it all stems from an email I got, and this email is... well, I think there were two other sort of contacts before this one, so that's why it's going to refer to some other things, but I don't think it really matters. I'm just going to read you the main email. Here we go. Hi, Brad. We don't know exactly what we're after from you either. I must have asked them what they were after. Only that you're the person for the task according to source intelligence. Now, I don't know what source intelligence is, but this happens to me a lot. This person assumes I know what that means, but yeah, I don't know what that means. Maybe they contacted some psychic, I don't know, ghost or something? I don't know. As I mentioned in my first email, my son apparently has a special gift. From what we can gather, he has a dormant psychic ability. But we don't know how to awaken it. We asked during the session we did last night how he can awaken his special gift, and we were directed to you and only you. So they were directed to me and only me, which becomes important later. We'd not heard of you before, but Source Intelligence knew you and how we could find you via Alex's Next Level Soul platform. There's a reference to me doing an interview with this Alex Next Level Soul. I don't remember that, but I do a lot of interviews, so it's possible. Anyway, maybe there's something you do that will help my son awaken his special gift. Maybe it's Zen Buddhism. I don't know any more about that. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just skipping over some stuff that doesn't matter. If the technique to awaken his special gift is Zen Buddhism, do you teach individuals or groups? Do we have to be with you in person, or can we just learn it off the internet, etc., etc.? Now, I'm going to read you my answer. I know people complain when I read stuff, but believe me, I'm going to talk some more after this, but I just want to get you up to speed on how this conversation went. I said, you're in for a disappointment then, but maybe your source intelligence knew this. The Zen way of dealing with such matters as psychic abilities and so forth is to regard them as makyo. This literally means the world of demons. It's not the same as the way a Christian might regard such powers as demonic. Remember that I said that, okay? It's more that such powers tend to invite one into a dark place where it's hard for the truth to enter. They're seductive and ultimately more of a problem than a benefit. Dogen, who founded the stream of Zen Buddhism that I practice and teach, wrote a few essays about this. One of them is called Jinzu, which means something like mystical powers, and I wrote about this in my book, It Came From Beyond Zen, in the chapter Buddhist Superpowers. And instead of reading you the rest, I'm just going to tell you kind of what I said. Okay, so I put it in this book, It Came From Beyond Zen, and the chapter is titled Buddhist Superpowers. Let's see, what chapter is it? It is Chapter 9, beginning on page 164, if you want to go on Terabes and illegally download the book. I'm not going to tell you any more about that than that. You're going to have to figure it out since it's an illegal download. But it is up on the internet illegally if you want to go look for it. But you can also support me by buying the book. That would be much nicer for me. The chapter at hand appears in Book 2 of the Nishijima Cross version of Shobo Genzo, and there it is titled Jinzu, or Mystical Power. So that's how Nishijima Roshi titled it. I think sometimes it's called Psychic Powers, or yeah, I don't know. There's various other titles you might find it on. It's probably in some other essay collections. And basically, what Dogen says in this essay, he gives a bunch of stories about different Zen masters who've exhibited paranormal powers. And he refers in there to what is called the 5 or 6, and that's how he says it. What are they called? Powers. And they are... according to the footnote in the Nishijima Cross translation, he gives the 6 powers, and he says they are the power of mystical transmutation. And I saw another book which said that that's sort of the power of bilocating, bilocation, I guess they call it. Instantly appearing in one place after you, like if I suddenly appeared in Los Angeles, which I don't live in, I live 40 miles away from Los Angeles, then that would be mystical transmutation. The power to know others' minds, which I plan to talk about later. The power of supernatural vision. I'm not sure exactly what you see, but probably some kind of paranormal power. The power of supernatural hearing, the power to know past lives, and the power to end excess. That one's a little bit hard to define. That's the one that supposedly only Buddhist masters have. Other people can develop the other 5, but only Buddhist masters have that one. The power to end excess is probably, given the way this essay goes with Dogen, it's probably the power to avoid all those other powers. So those are what they are, and those are kind of traditionally touted in Buddhist literature as these kind of psychic or paranormal powers one might develop through a practice of meditation. Dogen basically, he tells a bunch of stories. One of them he mentions, I think, a few times in the essay is this old story where Buddha supposedly flies up in the air and shoots fire out of the top of his head or water out of the bottom of his body, or sometimes it's fire out of one side of his body and water out of the other side of his body. He mentions that a few times because that's one of the big spiritual powers that shows up in Buddhist literature. But he also tells an interesting story which kind of reveals what he thinks of these superpowers. I'm going to read you my version. It's a little bit cartoony and weird. I decided to name the monks Shemp and Larry because they had similar names, Kyozan and Kyogen, and I thought that would be confusing. Besides, I like naming them after the Three Stooges. Here it goes. Once upon a time, a really super cool Zen master named Isan Ryu was lying down in his room when a student named Shemp came to see him. Isan turned so he was facing the wall. Shemp said, "Hey man, I'm your student. Don't show me your butt." Isan started to get up, but then Shemp just left. Isan called him back. "Hey Shemp." When Shemp returned, Isan said, "Let me tell you about this weird dream I just had." Shemp leaned in so he could listen. Isan said, "See if you could tell me what the dream means." Shemp then left and got Isan a basin of water and a towel. Isan washed his face to wake himself up, then he sat there for a couple of minutes. Right then, this other guy named Larry showed up. That's the other monk. Isan said to him, "Me and Shemp have been practicing our supernatural powers together. We've got some mad super skills. It's not just small stuff." Larry said, "I was standing outside and heard the whole thing." Isan said, "Why don't you try to show me some of your supernatural powers?" Larry went out, made some tea, and brought it back to the room. Tea has caffeine in it. It's another symbol of waking up. Now, I added that because I didn't know if people would know that, but that's not in the original. Isan said, "You two are even better than Buddha's most super-powered disciples." Ziggy! He keeps barking at things. I've had to stop this video a couple of times. Ziggy! So after that story, basically what Dogen does is he goes on to characterize most of what we think of, and probably the kind of things that this person who wrote me the email thinks of as supernatural powers or paranormal powers, as small stuff powers. And I was kind of, I don't know, happy? I don't know what the word I want to use. I called them small stuff powers. I'd never heard anybody call that, and I just checked this morning before I did this video on the new Sotoshu. The Sotoshu is the Vatican-like organization in Japan. They put out an English version of Shobogenzo, and they called it small stuff powers, using exactly the same phrasing that I had in this book, which came out quite a bit before theirs. So I'm not saying they copied me, but yeah, they copied me. Anyway, so Dogen calls these in English, well, he calls them in Japanese, but I called it small stuff because I felt that that's what the Japanese conveyed to me, that kind of sense of what he was saying. So he was saying these are small stuff, superpowers or supernatural powers or paranormal powers or powers, whatever, mystical powers, and that the great mystical power is the existence of the universe itself. He basically says that the only place these small stuff powers, or these small miracles, let's put it that way, the only place in which these small miracles exist is within the great miracle, which is ordinary existence itself. So you don't need superpowers. You don't need any of this stuff. There's another essay which appears in book 4 of Shobogenzo, which I've stopped and started this video a few times, so I'm not sure. Did I say this or not? You tell me. But I think I may have mentioned this. Tan Shinsu, which is the power to know others' minds. And that essay concerns a story. Well, let me just tell you the story because it's pretty short. Okay, I'm going to start you in the middle. At that time, a certain Daini Sanzo from India arrives in the capital saying, "I have the eye that intuits the minds of others." The emperor decrees that the national master should examine him, the national master being this great Zen master. As soon as Sanzo meets the master, he prostrates himself and stands to the master's side. The master says, "Have you got the power to know others' minds?" Sanzo answers, I wouldn't be so bold as to say so. That's just a polite, or, self-effacing thing that's a kind of a politeness. But he's basically saying, yeah. Tell me where this old monk is just now, to where I am just now. Sanzo says, "Master, you are the teacher of the whole country. Why have you gone to the West River to watch a boat race?" The master asks a second time, "Tell me where this old monk is just now." Sanzo says, "Master, you are the teacher of the whole country. Why are you in Tientsin Bridge watching someone play with a monkey?" Okay, why are you on that bridge? The master asks a third time, "Tell me where the old monk is just now." Sanzo takes a good while, but he does not know where the master has been. The master scolds him, saying, "You ghost of a wild fox, where is your power to know others' minds?" And Dogen analyzes this at great length, as he is wont to do, and basically says, look, people often think that the master was thinking of these things, like the bridge with the monkey or the boat race, and then the student or the Sanzo could read his mind. Sorry, I forgot to say this, so I'm jumping in here. So the traditional interpretation usually has it that the third time the teacher, the national master, goes into some kind of a Zen trance or Zen mind, and that's why the Sanzo can't tell where he is. Okay, back to me. But Dogen says it's not that at all. He's saying that the guy Sanzo didn't know where he was at any of those times, because where he was right here. He was saying that Sanzo was lost in his mind and not being right here in the midst of this great miracle. So let me tell you a bit about the reason that I think that the Buddhist teachers in the Zen stream really kind of disregard and downplay, as I think I hope I've made that point, that they disregard and they downplay these kind of supernatural powers, and the way I answered that lady was to kind of do that too. It's because, as I say, Makyo means not that they're demonic, and as you noticed, I said that to her straight up. I just said we call it the world of demons, but that doesn't mean that powers are necessarily demonic, like the devil is coming and making them. It means that they invite you into a dark place, because they invite you into a place where you're going to get very excited about those powers, and where you're going to get very interested in them, and they suck you away into this kind of place where you're going to think you're special and think that there's a special something, and disregard and miss out on the specialness of this world just as it is, of the great miracle in which these powers can exist. So these powers don't exist elsewhere. They don't exist outside of the great miracle that is just life, the universe, and everything. I'm going to read you how Dogen puts it, because he's a bit poetic. This is Carl Bielefeld's translation. Well, I'll read you my line first and then Carl Bielefeld. I have Dogen saying, and this is my paraphrase of Dogen, but it's pretty close. Small stuff superpowers depend on developing special skills just to do some kind of impressive stunt. Such small stuff superpowers might happen once, but they never happen again. They're selfish superpowers. And here's Carl Bielefeld's translation of the same thing. He says, to say that the 5 powers or 6 powers are small spiritual powers is to say that the 5 powers and 6 powers are defiled by practice and verification. They are cut off in time and place. While we have them in life, they do not appear after the body. They belong to the self and not to others. So that's dividing self and others. Though they may appear in this land, they do not appear in other lands. They're just something that happens right, they're just a trick you do right here. Though they may appear when we do not show them, they fail to appear when it is time to show them. And that's a fairly standard translation. So it's that these things get you excited and they get you to miss out on the real world. It's just like anything else. If you became rich and famous, you might miss out on the specialness of ordinary existence, and that never goes very well. Ask Kurt Cobain and Elvis Presley and all the rest. So let me tell you a little bit about my own experience with this, because this is one of the reasons I got into Zen. It's one of many reasons I got into it, so it's kind of among them. One of the things I recognized about myself when I was a small child was that I had a certain degree of psychic ability. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't even know the term psychic ability when I first started noticing this. But I would know things before they happened, and I could kind of predict things. It was never anything very valuable. When Dogen says these powers don't appear when they should appear, what I think of is I don't have like the power to pick the winning lottery numbers, or call a political race or something where I could actually make some money off of it. They're just kind of ridiculous superpower or psychic powers. One of them was, and this developed in my teenage years, was the ability to know where I would find good records. Random places, like a weird flea market or a Salvation Army, not just record stores and things like that. I would be drawn to these places, and I'd find like a Ventures album. I used to find Ventures albums all the time that way. I used to love the Ventures when I was a kid. I still love them, and I would know where the Ventures albums were, or the Rare Beatles albums, or that kind of stuff. And so I had this kind of low level of psychic ability. I never did develop it because I was never interested in developing it. It occurred to me even at the time, even as a little kid, that what I was interested in is I was trying to find out, what is this world I'm living in? Who am I? What is the deal here? Because this was very important to me. And I didn't think examining these psychic powers was a way into that. The only thing that psychic powers were sort of valuable was to let me know that the way most people conceived of the world, which doesn't include these kind of abilities, which denies their existence entirely, was wrong. I could see that people I knew who were telling me how the world is, teachers and so forth, they didn't get the whole picture, because I could see a little bit outside of that picture. But I never developed it, and I'm really glad I never developed it. I think it's bad news, somebody trying to help their kid develop their psychic powers. Just sounds, you're going to reward the kid for doing this. You're going to get him all excited about things that don't really deserve to be excited about. It's like forcing your kid to be a child actor, or something like that. It just doesn't end well. But let me read you the reply that I got from the person who wrote this, and maybe we'll talk about this and then end the video. She says, we are still in heaven, right? Us, God, me, you, is having a dream that we're down here. Everything is God, the good, the bad, the great, the ugly. God's having as many frequency/earthly experiences as God can to experience it all. God's literally like an octopus with billions of tentacles experiencing all different frequencies. You know that, yes? I don't really know that, but anyway, if something is demonic, then it is God, and if something is loving, it is God too. Absolutely everything is God. So she didn't get what I said. I tried to be clear that calling it Makyo was not saying it was demonic in the sense that she's talking about. Anyway, she goes on. Oh, Brad, your belief system is holding you back and limiting your soul's expansion and evolution. You do realize we found you using your supposed demonic technique. Again, I told you, I'm not demonic in that sense. So that makes you a demon then. Okay, you're not. I love it when people reply to me and they haven't paid attention to what I've said. Anyway, as stated above, even your demons are God experiencing the everything that God wishes to experience. We send you much love and hoping you allow your heart and to open and allow your love to grow. Okay, that's just passive aggressive nonsense. So it's like I hate that stuff. I hate that passive aggressive nonsense where spiritual people will try to be like, I send love, I send gasho. Somebody sent me a really nasty message last week with gasho at the end. Gasho is this thing, and I'm like, oh yeah. Anyway, I just told her that your source intelligence guided you to the right answer and you chose to ignore it. I'll probably never hear from her again, but I feel bad for her kid because these things just, as I said, they just get you excited. They just turn you away from looking at ordinary life. This is why the Zen teachers of the past always downplayed them. But notice, and I pointed this out in It Came From Beyond Zen, and I pointed it out in the video I did about this back in 2017, that Dogen doesn't deny any of this stuff. You know, you have your sort of Richard Dawkins or Sam Harris types who will sort of make fun of people who believe in supernatural powers or psychic abilities and say, okay, that's just nonsense, there's no such thing, and etc., etc. Dogen never says there's no such thing. In fact, he quite clearly in his writings believes that they exist. He's just saying that they're a wrong direction. There's something wrong to pursue. There's an old story about the Buddha meeting a yogi. I don't know if this is the Buddha, but some Buddhist master or the Buddha meets this yogi who says, I've got the power to walk on water. And he demonstrates it by walking across a river and walking right back. And the Buddha says, that's really impressive. How long did it take you to develop that power? And the guy says, I've been working on this for the past 20 years or something like that. And he developed this power. And the Buddha said, that's funny. I mean, I could just pay the ferryman a nickel and get across the river if I wanted to. A lot easier. And that's the thing. They draw you into this path of working very hard to develop a skill which is ultimately, mostly useless. You'd be better off learning a skill that's more useful, like playing guitar or drawing pictures or something. That would be, I think, more useful. At least it's more entertaining. I guess psychic powers are kind of entertaining. I went and saw magic. I was in Las Vegas last weekend. My nephew just had his birthday, and I went and visited him. And we went and saw, who was it? David Copperfield, and he did a magic show. And of course, those kind of things are really cool, and you're kind of going, oh, wow, And David Copperfield is obviously not trying to present it as a psychic power or real magic, but, people who do... I've seen people demonstrate their psychic powers. I've never been that impressed with it, but, some people are, and you can make loads of money off of it. Maybe this lady's going to make loads of money off her kid after having him develop these psychic powers. Good luck to him. Ugh. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. If you want to donate to me, you can go to the URL that you're seeing on the screen below, or that you are about to hear me say if you're listening to the audio version, which is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. That's where you will find links to my PayPal and Patreon accounts, and those are my main and usually my only ways of making a living. But as always, you don't gotta support me if you don't want to support me. I hope that lady sends me some money though, because I deserve it for spending time on her question and doing a whole video about it, which I'm sure she'll never see. Okay, we will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bye. Hey Ziggy, do doggies have psychic powers? Do you have any psychic abilities? Like, can you find cats when there are no cats around or something like that? Or you just smell things? I guess you just smell things. All right, Ziggy, let's go inside and edit the video.